Can one man completely shift a country's approach to political activism? One man did, and that man was Saul Alinsky. Here's how he did it. Saul Alinsky was born on January 30th, 1909, to Russian Jewish immigrant parents in Chicago. From a young age, Alinsky described facing anti-Semitism that was so pervasive you just accepted it as a fact of life. In 1930, Saul graduated from the University of Chicago with a major in archaeology. However, Saul's plans to become an archaeologist quickly faded due to the diminishing demand for his profession during the Great Depression. Saul was lucky enough to receive the Graduate Social Science Fellowship in Criminology, which paid for his tuition and housing costs in order for him to go to graduate school to study criminology at his alma mater. Alinsky happily took this opportunity as he felt someone had tossed him a life preserver while he saw so many people struggle through the Great Depression. While studying criminology, Alinsky decided to make his doctorate dissertation on the Al Capone mob. Alinsky slowly built connections with members of the mob until he had fully infiltrated the group, stating that they, quote, adopted him as a mascot, becoming close to Al Capone himself. Saul claims that most of the knowledge he used later in his career about the uses and abuses of power he learned in his time with the mob. While in his graduate program, Saul became heavily influenced by all of the social science development occurring due to many of the social inequalities being worsened by the Great Depression. After finishing his graduate studies, Saul began to form his concepts of mass organization for power. In the late 30s, Saul created the concept of community organizing, where he would unite communities and businesses to peacefully protest inequality within their communities. He did this through protests, boycotts, strikes, and electoral tactics. In this time period, Alinsky organized an area in Chicago known as the Back of the Yards. He unified churches and volunteer organizations to fight against the extreme poverty of the Great Depression. This group he organized later became the Back of the Yards Neighborhood Council. Many communities began to follow in Alinsky's footsteps and organize their own areas, and began effectively creating jobs for marginalized people, negotiating policy changes, and fighting against redlining. In 1940, Saul founded the Industrial Areas Foundation, which gathers and trains individuals for community organizing. Once in the 40s, Saul went to Kansas City to try to organize an impoverished neighborhood. However, every day as soon as he made his way outside, he would be picked up by police officers as a public nuisance. Saul started using this daily time in custody to write his first book, Reveille For Radicals. This was not the only book written by Alinsky. His second book, Rules for Radicals, published in 1972, only a year before his death, is actually the work he is most well known for. This book is a list of Alinsky's 13 rules for running an activist movement and creating social change. Saul's quick wit paired with his real-life experience made this book very popular. Alinsky's wit and sharp sense of humor aren't always appreciated, however, as many conservatives consider him vulgar and offensive. The opening of his book, Rules for Radicals, proved to be especially controversial as he gives the title of the first ever radical to Lucifer, saying he rebelled against the establishment so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom. Conservatives read that line a bit too literally and still use it as an example of his insanity. Saul died of a heart attack on June 12, 1972, at the age of 63. However, his message lives on through the 75 IAF organizations still standing today, the very concept of community organizing, and through his training of leaders such as Cesar Chavez and Barack Obama, proving that true activists live far beyond their years. In a way, Alinsky gave the power back to the people and helped train the next generation of activists.